Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 2024 year-end report and more. I'm Stephanie Filer, Executive Director for Shelter Animals Count, and I'm really excited to welcome you to this webinar. We have a bunch of people joining, so we'll give just a second here. But this is going to be a really fast-paced, lots of information today. So we all are also going to be recording this. So if you miss anything or want to go back and revisit or share it with your teams, we'll share that link out after with registrants. All right. Should we get going? Next slide. Great. Well, we are going to be talking a lot about our data report, a lot of information that was not included in our data report, and also going to be highlighting a lot of our partnership with Hill's Pet Nutrition that we're really excited that started last year and continuing into 2025. We started that partnership really focusing on a data foundation series that tackles everything from length of stay, dives deeper into kitten data and what's happening with kittens and how we can best help them. A lot around data terminology and standardization so that when we're saying data points, we all mean the same thing. Diving into big dog data and length of stay related to big dogs and why there are so many of them in shelters. And then also we released at the beginning of this year a Data Basics Workbook and Animal Welfare Glossary that puts this all in one spot. So there's a lot more to come that we'll talk about throughout this presentation, but make sure to check that out on our website for everything that's been released so far. Next slide. All right, so this is who we are from the SAC team. Half of our team will be presenting today. So I'll let Samantha and Tori introduce themselves in a little bit. And who Shelter Animals Count is, we are an independent, neutral nonprofit that we are trusted to care for all of the sheltering data. So there's over 14,000 animal sheltering organizations in the US, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and now Canada that we are collecting and sharing data for. We put that together monthly in our dashboards that are on our website, push that out also as well in other channels monthly. We also put out two big reports a year. The one that we're going to be talking about today is looking at 2024 related to the most recent years and also prior to the pandemic. We have webinars, blogs, and a whole bunch of other tools for members only that you can access when you submit data, including custom reports for your own data that you can share with stakeholders, comparing your organization to other organizations, et cetera. And then, like I mentioned, the Data Basics Workbook and Glossary that we'll go over later in today's webinar. And now I'll kick it over to Samantha.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be your guide through the data today. And just wanted to start out by introducing our machine learning estimation model, which was used to create this report. So at the beginning of 2024, we released our first estimation model so that we could provide national totals for the animal welfare industry. This model that we used at that point was based on median values by organization type and species. To help improve the accuracy of our estimations for organizations we didn't have data for or were missing data for, we went through a very rigorous process of identifying, testing, and validating variety of machine learning models that we then landed on the one to use for this report. This model does use demographic data to identify more specific trends at organization levels, and it includes our monthly intake and outcome data from over 6,000 organizations spanning 2016 through 2024. All data submitted by organizations is vital to making this model accurate. So we really appreciate all of your organization's continued participation in Shelter Animals Count. I will note that the transition to this new model may result in some differences in previously reported numbers, but you'll notice that the trends are still the same. So just keep that in mind as we go through, and if you're looking at any previous reports. So what's ahead today? Thank you so much for everybody who contributed questions to us. We are going to be touching on some of those more frequently asked ones that popped up, as well as presenting some data that's not been seen before. So this is data we did not release with our report, but it helps give a deeper dive to what's happening in shelters and rescues across the country. So we'll be going through specifically intakes. This is going to be looking at differences between species, organization types, and regions. We'll be looking at adoptions, transfers, and non-live outcomes as well as we go through. Again, breaks down by species, organization type, and species. And then we'll talk through the Data Basics Workbook a little bit and be able to share the data drive grant winners. Those of you who participated in that data drive will be announcing those winners at the end. All right, so let's dive in. I will tell you in advance, there's a lot of numbers that are going to get thrown at you. So if you're anything like me and you need time to digest, as Stephanie mentioned, we'll be releasing these slides as well as a recording. You can digest it again later, and also some additional blogs and resources that include some of this additional data. So before I get started here, I do just want to note that the data in this is based on United States only, and it does look at dogs and cats only as well. Throughout the report, we're going to be mentioning comparisons to 2023 from 2024, and then we have 2019 in there as an additional baseline as well. So our biggest question we get and look at regularly is how did dog and cat intakes in 2024 compare to years past? Almost 5.8 million dogs and cats entered organizations through community intakes in 2024. These community intakes are sourced from owner surrenders, strays, animals born in care, and animals seized. These intakes totaled 1.4% fewer than in 2023. That's representing about 83,000 animals. Intakes are evenly split between dogs and cats. So dogs make up 50% of these intakes and cats make up the other 50%. And both of these species are contributing to the overall decline. Intakes overall are still 11% lower than 2019, which is 735,000 animals. Now diving deeper into each species, in 2024, dog intakes from community sources continued their downward trend, decreasing by 2%. That's about 64,000 dogs compared to 2023. They are still 14% lower than 2019 levels as well. Showing the percentage of community intakes that each intake type represents is really important for understanding potential population shifts. So while intakes increase or decrease, and these intake types increase and decrease, we want to see how the overall intake population fares each year. So this is being shown in the line chart on the left side of the screen. We know that the number of stray dog intakes decreased by 2% from 2023, which is about 41,000 dogs. And yet you can see the top line of this chart that strays really remain the largest source of community dog intakes, comprising 59% of all community intakes. This is pretty consistent year over year, even pre-pandemic. Owner surrenders have dropped, decreasing by 4.5%, but those still account for 29% of overall dog intakes. A figure that, while it's the same as 2023, it's actually lower than 2019. So fewer owner surrender dogs are in the population of dog intakes. Meanwhile, other intake sources, which are animals born in care or seized, those saw an increase of about 4.6%. That provides a glimpse into maybe some shifts in the types of dogs entering, such as more pregnant dogs or dogs taken as part of seizure, cruelty, or legal cases. This year, we were able to include animal level data to help provide some more information on populations entering and leaving organizations. So this is showing what portion of intakes by dog size group and by dog age group. Overall, each size group of dogs make up 1/3 of the intake numbers, and dogs entering organizations are most likely to be between 5 months and 7 years old compared to other age groups. For cats in 2024, cat intakes from community sources experienced a slight decline. They're falling by less than 1% compared to 2023 and by 8% compared to 2019. Stray cat intakes. Stray cat intakes have also seen minor decreases of less than 0.5% from the previous year and now account for 62% of cat intakes. So those are those intake rates again, right there. Owner surrenders for cats decreased by 1.6% in 2023. However, they represent a growing share of those cat intake numbers, and they are rising from 29% or from 27% in 2019 up to 29% in 2024. And that indicates a shift in the cat population that are entering organizations being more likely to be relinquished over stray. Again, seeing animal level data breakdowns, we can look at cats by age group in the shelters. We are seeing that kittens under 8 weeks old are about 35% of intakes, which is a higher portion than we were seeing with the dog side of the puppy side of intakes. Now, understanding intakes by organization type, each organization type, which we have it broken down into the top four, they all contribute to the ecosystem of animal welfare in different ways. So we wanted to make sure we could highlight those differences today. Shelter organizations, which include brick and mortar government agencies, organizations with contracts, and private organizations. These three organization types account for 85% of community intakes across the country. Foster-based organizations, which are the rescues, those are accounting for 15% of these community intakes. Each organization type has seen different trends with community intakes. Government organizations, for example, have seen less than 1% increase in community intakes. This is due to a 1% increase in cat intakes, while dogs have stayed the same. When it comes to government organizations, their intakes are 56% are made up of dogs. So they actually have a larger share of their intakes being dogs than cats. And this actually hasn't changed since 2019. Organizations that hold contracts have also seen a change of less than 1%, with cat intakes staying the same and dog intakes decreasing. Private shelters experienced the largest decrease in community intakes compared to the other shelter organization types. They've seen a decrease of 3% of intakes. Dogs are the driving factor for these organizations. And it shifted their organization populations from being 41% dogs to 37% dogs in 2024. Our foster-based rescue organizations have also seen decreases in community intakes by 6% compared to 2023 and are even lower than before the pandemic at 6%. The decrease from pre-pandemic is due to a 19% decrease in dog intakes from community sources, while cat intakes for these rescue organizations are actually 9% higher than 2019. So in 2019, 52% of community intakes for rescues were dogs, and in 2024, only 45% were. This again could indicate a shift in rescues supporting cat populations more than dog populations at this time. We'll be showing some regional data as well. So this is just a snapshot of those regional breakouts for you. These are established by the US Census and what we use when we are discussing our regions. For regional community intakes, species intake distribution varies by region, with the percent of intakes, which are being shown here on the chart, The percent of intakes for cats ranging from a low of 43% in the East South Central region to a high of 60% in Mid Atlantic and New England regions. Dog intakes are more likely in the South Central and mountain regions. The regions that saw the largest changes in their intake numbers compared to 2023 um, did see decreases. The 4% decrease in the East South Central region was due to a decrease in dog intakes. The Pacific region saw a decrease that was due to cat intakes decreasing. And the decreases in the South Atlantic and West North Central were due to decreases in both species. So some key takeaways for the intakes. Both dog and cat community intakes are decreasing. A larger share of cat intakes are coming from owner surrenders than pre-pandemic. A larger share of dog intakes are coming from other intakes, such as seized and born in care. Government agencies take in 48% of community intakes in the industry, and the majority of their intakes are dogs. Private shelter and rescues have had the largest decrease in community intakes of all organization types compared to 2023. The East South Central region saw the largest decrease in community intakes compared to 2023, and this was due to dogs. And the Pacific region's decrease in cat intakes decreased their overall intakes. Now we'll go over to adoptions and share some data on that. In 2024, approximately 4.2 million dogs and cats were adopted. This is a less than 1% increase from 2023 overall, and more than 5% less than 2019. There are differences between cats and dogs, organization types, and regions, so we're going to go through each of those again. Dog adoptions continue to decline, dropping 1%, which is 22,000 fewer dogs adopted than 2023. And dog adoptions are 13% fewer than 2019. The adoption trends for dogs throughout the year are pretty steady, as you can see in this monthly adoptions by month. What we usually see is a spike in 2019, which is the top line. We see a nice spike in August, usually due to a Clear the Shelters national event that we're so used to. But you'll see in the last 2023 and 2024 years, that spike is not nearly as drastic as it was in 2019. Even so, we're even seeing that those adoption spikes have leveled out. For dogs, we were able to look at median length of stay to their adoption outcome, and we're seeing that those increases in length of stay are potentially driving the slower adoptions. So when we look at all size groups of dogs, we are seeing an increase almost double for all of their median lengths of stay. And just to note that we look at median length of stay because we're aggregating data at a national level and have larger outliers as part of that. At your organization, we do recommend looking at average length of stay as well. For cats, we saw 2.2 million cats adopted in 2024, which is a growth of 2%, nearly 39,000 cats. This surpassed 2019 levels by almost 3%, which was 58,000 more cats adopted than in 2019. And the peak growth during their adoption season, which is much more interesting than the dog side of things. Their peak season is definitely in the summer, as we know with kitten season happening. We looked at median length of stay for cats as well. And for them, we did age groups. So this is looking at their juvenile, adult, and senior age groups and what those median lengths of stay were. As you can see, 2024 median lengths of stay for cats are decreasing. And this is just showing 2023 versus 2024. So we're seeing improvements on length of stay as well as their adoption numbers. When we look at adoptions by organization type, You'll note that even with government organizations accounting for almost 50% of intakes in the industry, they make up a disproportionately smaller percentage of adoptions at less than 30% here. So for each organization type, we've seen different trends. Government organizations did see an increase in adoptions overall. This increase is due to increases in both cat and dog adoptions. Cat adoptions are, in fact, back to pre pandemic levels for government organizations, while dog adoptions are still playing catch up with 2019 by about 6%. Out of all organization types, government organizations are the closest to their 2019 levels for dogs. In 2024, we saw 56% of dogs entering government agencies experienced an outcome. So their rate of adoption is at 56%. This was the same as 2019. So adoptions are not declining at the same rate as intakes overall compared to 2019. Organizations with contracts are seeing little changes in their overall adoption numbers compared to last year, with less than 1% change. Cat adoptions are the same as 2023 and 2019, while dog adoptions are 1% less than 2023 and still 13% less than 2019. Private organizations are also seeing less than 1% change compared to 2023 and are the furthest organization type from getting back to 2019 levels at 10% still less than 2019. Dog adoptions are the main driver of this. Dog adoptions in private organizations are still 24% less than 2019. Rescues are seeing the largest decreases in adoption numbers of all organization types. While this group of organizations makes up only 15% of intakes, they complete 27% of adoptions. And so if their adoption numbers, along with the private organizations, are not increasing or staying the same, this will lead to less space and capacity as a main transfer partner. The decrease in adoptions is due to a 4% decrease in dog adoptions. With the decrease in intakes, however, rescues are seeing an increase in adoption rates for dogs, and we'll look closer at those adoption rates here on the next slide. So this is showing the organization types and their adoption numbers by cats and dogs. So you can see that trend of them either going up or down. We also have their adoption rates on the bottom. So you can see that for dogs, or for cats on the left-hand side, cat adoptions are higher for all organization types than they were in 2019, and their adoption rates have also been increasing. For dogs, there was a decline from 2019 in adoptions for all organization types, with this exception being this little bump on government agencies from 2023 to 2024. We are seeing that 56% of dogs entering sorry, lost my spot there. For organizations with contracts, overall adoption rates have remained steady for dogs, with intakes at private organizations remaining lower than 2019. So here we are looking at the regional adoption rates. The adoption rates here in the regions by species. So the yellow is going to be dogs and the gray is going to be cat adoption rates. Adoption rates are highest in the Mid-Atlantic and New England regions, while the West South Central region actually has cat adoption rates lower than dogs. We aren't seeing any large shifts in adoptions across the regions. New England has seen a 3% decrease in adoptions overall, while the Mid-Atlantic and West South Central regions have seen increases by 2%. So some key takeaways for adoptions. Dog adoptions are declining while cat adoptions are increasing. The length of stay for dogs of all size groups is almost twice as long as pre-pandemic. Cat length of stay for all age groups is decreasing. 50% of adoptions occur in private shelters and foster based rescues, and both of these organizations have seen decreases in dog adoptions. Adoption rates are increasing for cats and steady for dogs, mainly due to decreases in intakes. And regionally, there are not large shifts in adoptions. So I mentioned transfer partners a little bit when it came to those adoption numbers. So here's a deeper dive into transfers. First, we want to start out by explaining a little bit more about transfers in and transfers out when it comes to aggregate national data. This these intake and outcome types are very unique because they focus on how animals are moving within the animal welfare system from organization to organization. At an organization level, transfers in and out are vital to understanding capacity. But when we talk about transfers at an aggregate level, we have to consider a few things. The first being that transfers can lead to double counting. An animal that's transferred out of one organization and into another had an original intake from the community, such as a stray or owner surrender. That results for the first intake that they had. And then when they have another transfer, they then add a second intake type of transfer in, and also having a final outcome of adoption, they may end up with two outcomes. So to help prevent double counting, when we look at our aggregate data, that's when we mention our community intakes and community outcomes. That's going to be focused on data that is not transfer data. And we've isolated transfer data separately to really understand what's happening in that part of the ecosystem. Another note to make is that transfers in and out may not always equal the same number. This is because transfers in can also come from sources outside of the sheltering system. In general, we find transfers out are lower than transfers in at a national level. And this is because animals coming from national organizations during large scale cases, or research facilities or international transfers, all of those are coming in without that original intake, community intake type. So when we look at transfers in and out, I wanted to show really those key transfer in partners and key transfer out partners. So within the transfer ecosystem, foster-based rescues accept 52% of all transfers in, and then another 32% are entering private shelters. Meanwhile, government agencies and shelters with contracts are the primary organizations transferring animals out of their facility. So on these two slides, we're going to show these transferred numbers by organization type. And I've put a white box around those key organization type partners in and partners out. So on the left, those are going to be your transfer in partners, which are the rescues and shelters. So for cats, transfers in are lower for rescues, but they've evened out for private shelters. We're still seeing decreases in the transfers outside from the key outgoing side partnerships, even though with cats doing well with adoptions. For dogs, the transfer numbers are more drastically decreasing for both rescues and private organizations. Transfers out from government organizations are down 34% from 2019, while shelters with contracts are 45% lower. Neither one of those organization types, government or with contract, neither one of those organization types have seen drastic enough decreases in their intakes that indicate the need for transfers out is still there. However, with the key transfer in partners of rescues and private organizations seeing those lower number of adoptions that we were discussing earlier for dogs, it's not surprising that they are not transferring in as many. Key takeaways for the transfer data. Looking at aggregate transfer data separately from other intake and outcome types allows for more accurate analysis at the state, regional, and national levels. Private shelters and rescue organizations are the primary transfer in partners and have reported large decreases in transfers since 2019. Government agencies and shelters with contracts are the primary transfer out partners, and they've reported decreases in transfers out since 2019. These organizations are not seeing large enough decreases in their intake overall to support transfer decreases. So for non-live outcomes, in 2024, 748,000 dogs and cats experienced non-live outcomes. Overall, this is down almost 2% from 2023 and 20% from 2019. Cats drove much of this progress with 3% fewer non-live outcomes in 2023 and 37% fewer than 2019. Cat euthanasia rates dropped from 13% in 2019 to 8% in 2024. For dogs, 89% of non-live outcomes are due to shelter euthanasia, while 11% result from dying or being lost in care. Dog non-live outcomes are up from 2019 by 9%, and they're about even with 2023. Comparatively to dogs, cat non-live outcomes, a higher percentage of those non-live outcomes are made up of died in care or lost in care at 21%. This is due to some vulnerable populations like underage kittens, which are impacting these numbers. So to dive more closely into that, when looking at kittens under 5 months and their non-live outcomes, 73% of non-live outcomes occur when the kittens are less than 8 weeks old, highlighting the need for more support in that area. This is showing the breakdown of non-live outcomes year over year by species. So of the non-live outcomes in 2024, 50% of them were dogs and 50% were cats. This has essentially moved dogs to being more proportional with their intake amount, being 50-50 as well. But this is indicating a rise in those euthanasia rates for dogs. Of non-live outcomes, we have this broken down by organization type. So with government organizations accounting for almost 50% of intakes, they make up a disproportionately large amount of non-live outcomes at 60%. Non-live outcomes in shelter organizations, which includes government agencies, shelters with contracts, and private shelters, have risen by 0.5% for dogs, but dropped by 15% for cats. The increase for dogs is driven by government organizations, where non-live outcomes grew 1.5% and are now standing 17.5% higher than 2019. The non-live outcome rate for government organizations is 15% of total intakes. For cats, all shelter types have seen declines in non-live outcomes. Rescues have also reported decreases, with non-live outcomes down 15% for dogs and 4.6% for cats. Regional differences. This is showing the non-live outcome rates by species and in each region. Cats are still higher with non-live outcome rates than dogs in most regions, as you can see with the gray bar on the chart. New England is the only region where non-live outcome rate for cats is actually lower than dogs. All regions have seen decreases in these non-live outcome rates since 2019, while all regions have seen increases in the dog non-live outcome rates since 2019. In 7 of the 9 regions across the US, non-live outcomes have decreased overall. The East North and West South Central regions have seen an increase, however. The East North Central region has a larger increase in dog non-live outcomes, with dog non-live outcomes now 14% higher than 2019. The West South Central region had a higher increase in cat non-live outcomes, which are still 40% lower than 2019. One other region to note is the Pacific region, which had an overall decrease in non-live outcomes. This was due to a decrease in cat non-live outcomes. This region has actually had the largest increase since 2019 for dog non-live outcomes at 24%. So overall takeaways for the non-live outcomes, cats are seeing improved non-live outcome numbers and rates compared to 2019. For kittens under 5 months old, the most at-risk population are those under 8 weeks old. Dogs are seeing higher non-live outcome numbers and rates compared to 2019. Government agencies account for 60% of non-live outcomes. And the Pacific region has seen the largest increase in dog non-live outcomes since 2019. And now I'm going to pass it over to Tori to continue on.
Thank you so much, Samantha. That was such amazing information. It's just incredible to see the numbers for the year and just everything that your team is able to accomplish. So I am Tori Fugate. I am the Director of Communications for Shelter Animals Count. I'm relatively new to the team, been here since September, and am very excited to be here with you all today. And really, as we look at the numbers for the year and just wrapping up the data I put the link to download the full report in the chat. And so you'll be able to see the highlights for the year. And really, I mean, with so much kind of remaining steady, some great trends to look at for the year include the fact that adoption rates are, doing well, all things considered. But one thing to really look at for the upcoming year is the longer length of stay for dogs. So we do see that dogs are increasing their length of stay in all sizes, which compounds to the crisis issues that we are experiencing in shelters. And then just looking at those org type comparisons, I thought that was very fascinating to be able to see, even in the regions by org type. It's just overall just such interesting data, and it really shows us, where we can look at for the year in terms of programming and support for the year. So where can we find a lot of this information? So we're really excited that we just released our new National Animal Welfare Statistics Dashboard. And Samantha, you can go on to the next slide. Perfect. And so this is brand new on our website. You'll be able to see this. This is just a refreshed version. And this is live now today for the public as well. And so you'll be able to, there's a lot more filters that you'll be able to go through by rescue, by shelter, dogs and cats only throughout the past few years, and then we'll be able to see 2025 data on there soon. There are a few dashboards that we have previously had on our website that you may have been able to locate prior to. We're refreshing a lot of our dashboards right now, so there's going to be a lot more to come. Just watch our social media pages, and we'll be making announcements throughout the year on those dashboards. So now I am going to introduce Courtney Sudoff with Hills Pet Nutrition. So Courtney is going to be going through some really exciting things that Hills has going on. And really, thank you so much for your support of our Data Foundation series and this webinar today.
Thank you, Tori. It is our pleasure to support all things data. So outside of the data workbook and all of the great things that we're doing with the Shelter Animals Count, we also hope, if you haven't already, you will take a couple of minutes and check out, right now it's our 2024 State of Shelter Pet Adoption Report. It's on our website. I've linked it here. But this report basically looks at all of the data, but from the adopter perspective. So what are those barriers? What are the tipping points to get them to say yes to an adoption? And maybe even more importantly, what are the things that that they say will help them keep that pet or help them get through any of the kind of the acclimation period so we don't see returns. We have pulled out just a couple of key stats. So if we want to go to the next slide, I think one of the things that we were really encouraged in seeing is that there's still this likelihood to adopt. We are seeing general population data, but really when you start looking at maybe the sweet spot of who the adopters of the future are. You can see Gen Z and millennials really being the two age demographics that have really raised their hand to say, yes, we are really interested in adopting. And actually, if you want to go to the next slide, I think one of the areas that we are really, the team talked a lot about length of stay increasing for dogs and especially large dogs. That's actually where we're seeing the sweet spot with Gen Z. They are most likely of all the population to consider a large dog. So we think this is really an area to double click on and figure out, how that potentially could become part of a pathway as we think about solutions to helping improve some of the outcome data that we just talked about. And if you want to go to the next slide, of course, it's not always rainbows and butterflies, right, with the data. I mean, there's still challenges that we're seeing, even on the large dog side, for the subset that probably are more interested in a cat or in a smaller dog. There's still a lot of barriers that they reported, right? So it's difficult sometimes to have a large dog. They're bigger. It's hard to travel with them. Unfortunately, housing restrictions, we know, continue to be a barrier here. And then on the other side of the equation, cost, right? So, we still see vet care as being one of the number one barriers. So, again, as we think about access to care and other things in the future, these could be ways to help address some of those barriers. I'm going to go to the next slide. And then the last part, and I mentioned this, that we saw the post-adoption support in our data really was instrumental in helping keep those people and pets together. And so lots of incredible programs that we constantly are hearing about how shelters are leaning in with behavior hotlines or other resources. So I think this data just really validates the importance of those programs. So this is all of our data from last year's report. We are actually in the process of fielding the new data right now. So it will be out over the summer. So of course, hopefully you'll hear from us here in this capacity. But there are a couple of other ways to kind of gain further data insights. One, if you are a member of our Hills Food Shelter and Love program, or if you're interested in joining, we are going to be hosting our own town hall in just a couple of weeks on Thursday, February 27th. And we are going to have members of the SAC team joining to share even more data and insights that you didn't hear today. So we hope you'll consider joining us. You can scan this QR code now, or it's also linked over on our Hills Food Shelter and Love LinkedIn page. And we are going to be doing giveaways during that town hall for attendees, where you can win 1,000 pounds of food that you can use either for in-shelter feeding or to use for your food pantry. So we hope you'll join us in the SAC team there. And then I think on the next slide, if you're attending the HSUS Expo this spring in Las Vegas, we did a kind of an abbreviated version of this panel a couple of months ago, where where have all the adopters gone? But this team will be back in action along with our friends at Adopt-A-Pet and at Haas. We'll be deep diving into this data as well. So if you're going to be at HSUS, we hope you will join our panel on April the 16th at 3 p.m.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Yeah, thanks again.
Yes, of course. That's so exciting. The State of the Shelter report every year is just so exciting, and everybody should go check it out and all the amazing data in there. So we're so appreciative of you and your support for organizations all across the country. So thank you so much. And one other really exciting project that we've recently put out and released was our Data Basics Workbook. So this was released and it's powered by Hills Pet Nutrition. This was released in January, and it's really the first of its kind resource. And it's a great resource if you are new to sheltering, if you are somebody who's been in animal rescue for a long time. Maybe you have board members who are new to your organizations and you're kind of explaining why data is so important. This is a great resource and toolkit to give to somebody who just needs a little bit of knowledge about like data standardization that we're doing in animal welfare, terms that are really helpful. There's so much great information in here. So part one is really the why, the role of data that animal welfare the role that data plays in animal welfare, excuse me, and also the history of data in animal welfare. So data has been tracked since really the 1800s, and wasn't until we really got into all of our software developments that we started really collecting and analyzing data from the shelter perspective. And then with SAC being founded in 2012, we started analyzing and collecting data in 2016 and have been reporting on that ever since with our national database. And you'll be able to go through each part and just learn about resources and tools, even just outside of shelter animals count. Why intake? What are intake types? What are location types? What does length of stay mean? Medical and behavior information. Why all of this really plays a part when we're talking about data and animal welfare. Part two is how to use your data. So it's ideas that you can, use to talk about community support, things that you can talk about with your community of, why there are so many kittens coming in and how they can support those kittens coming into your shelter. And then the standardization and advice for data collection and reporting. We do have a ways to go in terms of data standardization, which there's really exciting things that a lot of organizations are working on towards that data standardization. And with this workbook, you'll be able to see how, we define a lot of the terms in animal welfare and how your data should be reported on so that we can really work on those data standardization practices. You'll also be able to see what the role of shelter animals count is in terms of the broader animal welfare landscape, and then the dashboards and resources that are available from SAC, which if you go to the next slide, these are member exclusive dashboards. So organizations that report to Shelter Animals Count will be able to access a lot of these dashboards that are in your membership portal. So you'll be able to do org type comparisons, navigate to other dashboards, looking at forecasting of what 2025 is going to look like for your organization. So there's a lot of really great tools that you can use in those member exclusive dashboards in your portal, which is just another great reason to report your data to Shelter Animals Count every year. So if you're wondering what's going on at the organizations near you, you can pull those things up and look at org type comparisons. You'll also be able to learn how you can collaborate with other shelters in your region, in your area. There's just a lot of great toolkits and resources that are available in those dashboards. And if you go to the next slide. The other thing that we offer are embeddable dashboards for your website. So if you are wanting to show your data, what your organization is experiencing for the year, we can help you with that, including your community services dashboard. So if you are reporting on resources that you're providing to your community, TNR services, getting pets back home without having to come into the shelter, those types of intake data or those types of data points can be done on our community services dashboard. So you can have both your intakes and outcomes dashboard as well as your community services dashboards embedded right on your website. This is an example from Wisconsin Humane on how theirs look on their website. It's just another great tool for transparency and just sharing what's happening at your organization so that you can bring in that community support. We also have APIs for more shelter management softwares. So if you are an organization that uses Shelter Love, Animals First, Animal Shelter Manager, Pet Point, and Pet Established, those are available for automatic data upload. So if you are tired of entering manual data, this is the tool for you. You can absolutely be able to sign up for these. There's information on our website on how you can get signed up for these so you don't have to enter your monthly data anymore, which is a great time-saving tool for you. That's the next one. So in part 3 in the Data Basics Workbook is our updated glossary. This is also updated on our website. So we have gone through and refreshed and rewritten a lot of the general animal welfare terms that you hear of every day. So again, if you're new to animal welfare, you have a staff member that's new and you're trying to understand how what all these terms mean and how it applies to data, this is a great resource for you. So this is part of the Data Basics Workbook, and it's also updated on our website, and I'll put a link to that in the chat momentarily. Can go on to the next part. And so this is very exciting. So each year we do our data drive, and this year we had 1,797 organizations that qualified in the intake outcome database that applied for, or that qualified for this year's data drive, and they had to submit a full year of data to Shelter Animals Count in order to qualify by a certain date. It was back in January. And then we had 112 organizations that qualified for the Community Service Award. So these are grants that we are going to be announcing. And today, thanks to, it's $15,000 in grant prizes, thanks to Hill's Pet Nutrition. So we're very excited and thrilled to be able to announce the winners of our 2024 data drive. And I'm going to bring back Courtney to help us do the honors today.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like we should have like a drum roll, please. But
I know, right?
yes. So we have quite a few to go through. So I think we'll start with the next slide.
Okay.
Is there a slide? I can't see slides anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie told me. So actually, I probably can't do this at all. I'd have to sign out and sign back in.
Here's what I'll do, Courtney, to
Okay.
help. I will announce what the category is, and then you get to announce the winner, okay?
Oh, I can't see the winners right now either,
Oh,
though.
you can't?
Wait, hold on. I can solve this problem myself. Hold on 1 second. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening with the technology today.
You are so good. We can easily pivot.
Hold on 1 second.
As long as the checks are good, they're good.
Yes, yeah, I think the checks should all be good and in the mail from the way I understand it. So hold on 1 second. I think I have. Okay. All right. So let's see. I think you're probably on the slide that has all of the things. So the first, the first award is our $500 Community Service Award winner. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. Well, congratulations to Fix in West Texas for being our $500 award winner.
Yay! Congrats.
Yay!
West
All right. Next, the $1,500 grant award winner. So our third prize, it goes to the Humane Society of Cedar Creek in Lake Texas, or Cedar Lake, Texas. Congratulations. All right. And then our second prize and our $3,000 grant award winner goes to Creating Hope for Paws from Alabama. So congratulations to that team.
Yay, congrats.
Yay. All right. And now our two $5,000 award winners. So the first goes to Menominee Animal Shelter from Michigan. I hope I got that right. Congratulations.
Yay.
And then our second $5,000 grant award winner goes to the City of Chico Animal Shelter in California. So congratulations to everyone. I think the next slide has all of the winners in one spot. So we just really thank you for participating and for letting Hills be a part of helping hopefully get more data into the mix so we can continue to improve outcomes.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's very exciting. Congrats to all of our winners, and thank you to everybody who participated and submitted their data in for this year's data drive. We're so grateful to all of you for being such amazing data partners in our industry. So go ahead to the next slide. And then we just wanted to remind everybody on the webinar today that we do offer one-on-one support. So if there's things that you've seen today that you're like, wait, what are APIs? What are dashboards? Like, what are all of these things? Please reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you and assist with, any of the tools and resources that you need assistance with. You can just reach out to info@shelteranimalscount.org, and we are so happy to help you in any way that you need, and especially if you do need help with getting those APIs set up and those dashboards, whatever it is. So go to the next slide. And then lastly, we hope that you subscribe to Shelter Animals Count, so stay up to date on the latest trends, be first to receive important updates. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then we are working on, there's so many really exciting things in 2025 that are coming up. So you really want to subscribe and stay up to date with all of the really exciting things that are happening here at Shelter Animals Count. So we do have a few minutes left for some questions. So if I want to go back to the Q&A. So Samantha, If a stray cat is brought in for TNR, how is that counted in terms, is that an intake or is that a community service?
So if the stray cat is brought in with the intent that it'll be returned as part of a trap neuter return program, that would be considered a community service. So that cat doesn't have an intake type or an outcome type. It's captured on the service side, and that would be captured in our community services. If a general person from the community brought in a stray cat, however, and the organization determined, the best option for this cat is to be returned to where it was found, that would be a return to field. So that then is captured as a stray intake and a return to field outcome.
Great.
And we do have this pretty well detailed too in our animal welfare glossary. So feel free to go there too if you need to read up on that anymore.
Perfect. And then there were several questions of defining lost in care and how those relate to the non-live outcome data that we presented.
Yeah, so lost in care is a very, very small amount when it comes to data. So we usually group it with our diet and care numbers just for simplicity because it's very small. But lost in care in general are when the animal doesn't have any kind of outcome captured, it's no longer in the system. People really just don't know what happened to that animal. It could also mean the animal has run away from a foster home, still on the loose somewhere. So it's really just that animal being missing from the system. We can't guarantee it was a live outcome. So it really goes more into that missing category, which doesn't really impact the non-live outcomes too much when it comes to that. So.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then there was a question about kitten season in particular. So does the extended kitten season factor into non-live outcomes that animal welfare experienced? Like a normal kitten season is March through April. So shelters, regionally can see non-live outcomes happening all year because they see kittens coming in all year.
Yeah, a kitten season, I mean, I know it's more striking in some regions than others, just due to weather patterns. So when it comes to those, I mean, we're just looking at the aggregate trends for them. The season itself, the non-live outcomes throughout the year run about the same pattern that we see when it comes to those intakes for cats, which does indicate that, kittens impact all of those trends year round.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Stephanie and Courtney, for being here today and being part of this conversation. We want to thank Hill's Pet Nutrition again for all of their support of our Data Foundation series, as well as our Data Basics Workbook and today's webinar. So if you can, please subscribe to our email list so that you can stay up to date on all the things that are happening with Shelter Animals Count. We will be offering a recap of this webinar. The recording will be live on our website too, if you want to review any of the data today. And if we did not get to your questions, we'll work on getting back to you on those questions. And really excited for all the amazing things coming in the upcoming year. And thank you all so much for being part of this important conversation. And thank you for submitting your data to Shelter Animals Count. Have a great day, everyone.